In the dim light of ancient temples, amidst the haze of sacred smoke and soft murmurs of prayer, there existed a drink that held the power to unlock realms of insight and transcendence. Wine. It was more than a mere beverage. It was a vessel of transformation, an elixir imbued with divine energy. But have you ever wondered, is there more to wine than just its taste, its warmth, or its intoxicating effects? For centuries, wine has flowed through the veins of spiritual rituals, royal ceremonies, and mystical traditions, yet its deeper spiritual significance has remained shrouded in mystery. Today, we are about to lift the veil on one of the most enigmatic practices of human history. What if I told you that drinking wine is not just about seeking pleasure or indulgence, but that it holds the key to unlocking forgotten realms of consciousness? A subtle alchemy, hidden in plain sight, one that connects you to ancient wisdom and alters your very perception of reality. The truth about wine's spiritual impact has been passed down in whispers, lost in forgotten scriptures, and buried beneath centuries of cultural evolution. Yet, in the right context, wine is a doorway, an ancient bridge that connects the human soul to divine truths. In this video, we will explore the sacred history of wine, from the ancient Egyptians to the Greek Dionysian rites, and unlock its esoteric symbolism. We will journey through the metaphysical dimensions of this powerful substance, and uncover how it has been used to alter states of consciousness, deepen spiritual practices, and facilitate the communion with the divine. But beware, the true purpose of wine's spiritual potential is not one that is often understood in the modern age. It is an ancient force, one that demands respect, understanding, and balance. So, grab your glass, open your mind, and prepare for a journey into the hidden spiritual impact of drinking wine. This is no ordinary exploration. It's a return to ancient wisdom, and you may just find yourself transformed along the way. Wine, an ancient gift from the gods, has been a part of human civilization for millennia. From the dawn of recorded history, its use transcended mere social gathering. It was imbued with mystical significance, a key element in spiritual rites, royal ceremonies, and divine worship. But to understand the true nature of wine's spiritual power, we must first journey into the depths of ancient cultures, where its symbolic meaning began to take shape. In ancient Egypt, wine was regarded as the drink of the gods, associated with Osiris, the god of life, death, and rebirth. The Egyptians believed that wine could connect them with the divine realm, offering access to the wisdom of the gods. Wine was used in sacred rituals to honor deities and to symbolize the eternal cycle of life, death, and resurrection. The act of drinking wine was not just an act of pleasure, it was a means of aligning oneself with the eternal flow of cosmic forces. In fact, the Egyptian word for wine, ken, was closely tied to the idea of transformation, of the soul undergoing a metamorphosis from one state of being to another. Beyond Egypt, we find ourselves in the ancient Greek world, where the god Dionysus ruled over wine, ecstasy, and divine madness. Dionysus was not only a god of pleasure and revelry. He was also the god of spiritual enlightenment and liberation. The sacred Dionysian rites were held in secret, deep within the forests and caves, where followers would engage in ecstatic rituals, drinking wine in large quantities, and entering altered states of consciousness. These rites were seen as a path to enlightenment, an awakening to hidden knowledge and divine truths that lay beyond the ordinary world. To drink wine was to break free from the constraints of mundane life and enter into communion with the divine. The Greeks saw wine as a means of connecting the human soul with the divine cosmos. The philosopher Plato wrote of the divine madness induced by wine, a state in which the mind could transcend earthly limits and open itself to higher truths. In his Phaedrus, he speaks of the 4 kinds of divine madness, with one of them being the madness of wine, through which the soul is liberated and attains wisdom beyond mortal understanding. This is no ordinary drunkenness. It is a sacred madness, one that opens the gates to otherworldly realms, where insight and inspiration flow freely. Similarly, in the mystical traditions of the Hebrews, wine was deeply symbolic of divine favor. In the Old Testament, wine was often used in religious rituals, representing joy, abundance, and the blessing of the Creator. The sacred wine of the Passover, for instance, was seen as a symbol of freedom and spiritual renewal. But perhaps the most profound expression of wine's spiritual significance can be found in the teachings of Jesus Christ. During the Last Supper, he shared wine with his disciples, saying, "This is my blood, which is poured out for you." In this moment, wine was transformed into the very essence of divine sacrifice and communion with the divine. It became a symbol of the soul's union with the higher realms, and a conduit for experiencing the divine mystery. Yet, as time passed, the deeper esoteric understanding of wine faded into obscurity. The sacred rituals were replaced with social drinking, and the transformative power of wine was lost in the clamor of modern life. Wine, once revered as a sacred elixir, became merely a drink of indulgence, a way to escape the burdens of daily existence. The mystical connection between wine and spiritual enlightenment became diluted, misunderstood, and forgotten. But in these lost traditions, buried deep within ancient texts and rituals, lies the key to understanding the true spiritual power of wine. For those willing to look beyond the surface, to question the assumptions of the modern world, the ancient wisdom still speaks. Wine, in its deepest form, is not merely a substance for inebriation. It is a doorway to higher consciousness, a vessel through which we may reconnect with the divine, the cosmos, and our own inner wisdom. To understand the hidden spiritual impact of drinking wine, we must first grasp the concept of what wine truly represents in the esoteric sense. It is far more than fermented grapes. It is a living, breathing symbol, a conduit for energy, and an initiatory substance with the power to open gateways to realms beyond ordinary perception. As we dive deeper, we will explore the ancient secrets woven into the fabric of wine's spiritual significance, uncovering layers of meaning that have been obscured for centuries. The first key idea to understand is that wine is a vessel for energy. Specifically, it is an energetic vehicle that links the material world to the spiritual. Wine has long been used in rituals to raise the vibrational frequency of the individual, allowing them to access higher states of awareness. The very act of fermentation, in its mystical interpretation, symbolizes the alchemical process of transformation. Just as the grape undergoes a dramatic change when fermented, so too can the soul undergo transformation when it partakes in the sacred ritual of consuming wine. In the alchemical tradition, wine represents the spirit in the triad of body, mind, and spirit. The process of making wine mirrors the spiritual journey of purification, transmutation, and elevation. The grape, which is in its raw form, a humble, earthbound fruit, undergoes a deep metamorphosis to become wine. This change reflects the process of spiritual enlightenment, from base consciousness to higher wisdom. Just as the grape's potential is realized through fermentation, so too is the human soul's latent potential activated through spiritual practices, which wine, in its sacred use, helps to catalyze. The second layer of meaning involves the energetic connection between the individual and the universe. Ancient cultures believed that wine was not simply a human-made substance. It was a gift from the gods, a divine elixir. To partake in wine was to invite the divine presence into one's body. This connection between human and divine was not abstract. It was real and tangible. In sacred texts, wine is often described as the blood of the gods, and through its consumption, the individual could spiritually merge with the higher forces of the cosmos. Consider the symbolism of blood in the spiritual world. Blood represents life force, vital energy flowing through all living beings. To drink wine was, symbolically, to drink the very essence of life itself, a life force that is both physical and metaphysical. In ancient cultures, it was believed that the gods infused their energy into certain substances, and wine was one of these sacred vessels. By drinking wine, the soul could connect with divine wisdom, receiving guidance and insight in the process. Another vital aspect is the concept of wine as a medium for altered states of consciousness. In many spiritual traditions, access to higher dimensions, hidden knowledge, or divine inspiration is achieved through altered states, whether through meditation, fasting, or ritualistic consumption of certain substances. Wine, in the context of sacred rituals, serves this very purpose. It creates a bridge between the physical world and the higher realms of existence. The Greek philosopher Plato recognized this when he referred to the divine madness of wine, which opened the mind to higher truths. The intoxication of wine was not just about losing control, it was a surrender to the divine flow, an opening of the soul to experience the mysteries that lay beyond the veil of ordinary perception. But this journey is not without its complexities. The process of reaching higher consciousness through wine is not always straightforward or linear. It requires intentionality and respect for the sacred nature of the ritual. When wine is consumed carelessly or out of balance, it can lead to dissolution rather than elevation. This paradox, the potential for both enlightenment and destruction, reflects the dual nature of wine's energy. Like all powerful forces, it must be approached with reverence, humility, and mindfulness. In fact, the misuse of wine is what caused its esoteric significance to be obscured over time. As society became more secular, the sacred rites that once accompanied wine drinking were gradually lost. What was once a doorway to spiritual awakening became a simple tool for intoxication, a means of socializing rather than self-realization. But for those who understand its deeper power, wine remains a potent ally in the journey of the soul, a tool for transformation, for connection with the divine, and for the unlocking of ancient wisdom that has been passed down through the ages. Now, we begin to explore the deeper mysteries hidden within wine's spiritual power. To fully understand the profound impact of this elixir, we must look beyond the surface, where myths, misconceptions, and veiled truths converge. One of the most pervasive myths surrounding wine is the idea that it is merely a source of pleasure or escape. While wine can indeed induce a sense of euphoria, its true spiritual purpose has always been far greater. In the ancient world, the act of drinking wine was never about indulgence alone, it was about communion with the cosmos. The philosopher Pythagoras, whose teachings were steeped in mystical wisdom, saw wine as a substance that allowed one to transcend the mundane and touch the divine. This idea was shared across many cultures, from the sacred wine-drinking ceremonies of the Greeks to the Dionysian rites, where wine was used to enter a state of divine ecstasy and direct communion with the gods. However, not all wine is the same, nor is it the same for all individuals. Each bottle, each sip, contains an energetic imprint, a vibration. This is where the ancient practice of blessing, or purifying, the wine before consumption comes into play. Wine, like all elements in nature, is imbued with energy, and when it is not treated with care and reverence, it can carry an imbalanced or negative frequency. In traditional cultures, sacred rituals, whether performed by a priest, shaman, or elder, were carried out to cleanse the wine of any impurities, thereby ensuring its vibrational frequency matched the intentions of the participants. Consider the alchemical symbolism of wine. It is often described as the elixir of life and the blood of Christ in Christian mysticism, and the soma in Vedic traditions. These references hint at an understanding that wine transcends mere physical pleasure. It is a medium through which the divine communicates, an ancient key to unlocking secret wisdom. The wine in these sacred contexts is a vessel for higher knowledge, infused with the essence of the cosmos. In some esoteric traditions, wine is associated with the divine feminine, the goddess principle that flows through nature. This connection is most clearly seen in the symbolism of the chalice, the sacred vessel that holds the wine in ritual. The chalice is seen as a receptacle for the divine energy that descends from the heavens, and drinking from it is an act of receiving that energy. Just as the divine feminine principle nurtures and brings forth life, so too does the wine nurture the spirit, giving life to one's inner wisdom and understanding. But beyond its association with the divine feminine, wine also embodies paradoxes that challenge the seeker. It is both the nectar of enlightenment and a potential poison if mishandled. It is a bridge to higher realms, yet it can also lead to disillusionment and confusion if consumed without the proper intent. This duality, of wine as both a sacred and potentially dangerous force, speaks to the complex nature of spiritual growth. The true seeker must learn to wield wine with balance, just as they must learn to navigate the complexities of life itself. Consider the stories of mystics and prophets who experienced profound revelations under the influence of wine. The Persian poet and philosopher Rumi, for example, wrote extensively about the spiritual ecstasy of wine, using it as a metaphor for divine intoxication, the kind of enlightenment that comes when the self dissolves into the vastness of the universe. In these moments of drunken clarity, the mystic sees the world not as it appears, but as it truly is, a living expression of divine energy. Wine, in this sense, becomes a tool for shifting the perception of reality, allowing one to transcend the limitations of the mind and experience the divine directly. Yet, to access this wisdom through wine requires a deep understanding of one's inner state. If a person approaches wine with the intent to escape from their problems or numb their emotions, the substance can amplify these negative energies. In other words, wine reflects the state of the soul that drinks it. A pure soul will find in wine a gateway to higher consciousness, whereas a soul consumed by darkness may find itself further trapped in illusion. This is why spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of inner clarity, mindfulness, and intention when consuming wine in sacred contexts. It's also important to recognize that wine is not just a catalyst for spiritual transformation. It is, in a sense, a mirror of our own soul's journey. Just as wine matures with time, so too does the soul grow wiser through the experiences of life. The more we open ourselves to the spiritual wisdom that wine offers, the more we align with the natural cycles of growth, death, and rebirth. Wine, in this context, becomes a symbol of the eternal cycle of life, reminding us that everything is in constant flux, and that true wisdom comes through embracing this ebb and flow. Now that we've ventured through the hidden layers of wine's spiritual significance, it's time to bring these esoteric truths into the realm of practical application. How can we, as modern seekers, engage with wine in a way that nurtures our spirit and aligns us with higher consciousness? The key lies not in the act of drinking itself, but in the conscious ritual and intention behind it. Set your intention before you drink. Before opening a bottle of wine, take a moment to center yourself. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and reflect on what you seek in the moment. Are you looking for clarity, a deeper connection with the divine, healing from a past trauma? The energy of wine, like all spiritual tools, responds to the energy we project. When we drink with intention, we begin to shape the experience, not the other way around. A simple but powerful ritual involves holding the wine glass in your hands before taking a sip. Visualize a bright light emanating from your heart, infusing the wine with your purest intentions. See this light mingling with the wine's energy, activating a higher frequency. This practice connects you to the ancient tradition of infusing wine with divine intention, turning a mundane act into a powerful spiritual experience. The sacredness of the chalice. In many ancient traditions, wine is consumed from a chalice, a vessel designed to hold and honor the spirit of the liquid within. If you truly want to engage with wine on a deeper, more sacred level, consider using a special cup or chalice, something that resonates with you spiritually. This doesn't need to be extravagant, but it should be something you only use for your wine rituals, something that feels imbued with meaning. Holding the chalice in your hands and drinking from it with reverence is an act of honoring not just the wine but the ancient wisdom it carries. Mindfulness in every sip. The most profound spiritual impact of wine comes not from a single sip, but from the mindfulness with which you drink. As you take a sip, slow down. Don't drink merely to quench thirst or to be swept away by the taste. Instead, feel the sensation of the wine on your tongue, savor its richness, and allow yourself to become fully immersed in the experience. With each sip, ask yourself, what is this wine revealing to me? Focus on the sensations, and open yourself to any insights that arise. In doing so, you enter a sacred communion with the divine through the very act of drinking. The wine of the ancients. Enact a ritual of gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools to elevate any spiritual practice, and it is especially vital when engaging with wine's energy. In many ancient rituals, the first sip of wine was offered to the divine as an act of thanks. You can incorporate this ancient practice by offering your first sip in gratitude, for the wine, for the sacred act of drinking, and for the spiritual insight you are about to receive. This act of reverence helps align your heart with the divine frequency of the wine, creating a space for true spiritual transformation. If you feel called to, you can offer a prayer before drinking. I drink in the spirit of divine wisdom, to open my heart, expand my consciousness, and embrace the mysteries of life with reverence and clarity. This prayer can serve as a grounding tool, preparing you to receive the higher wisdom the wine is here to offer. Integrate the insights after the ritual. Drinking wine as a spiritual practice is not about seeking momentary pleasure or an escape from life's challenges. It's about integration. After you've finished the ritual, take time to reflect. How did the wine affect your mood, your thoughts, your sense of connection with the world around you? Did any insights or intuitions arise during the ritual? Whether it was a subtle shift in your emotional state or a deep revelation, make it a point to integrate what you've learned into your daily life. You might find that after drinking wine with intention, you experience moments of clarity, creativity, or inner peace. These are signs that you've tapped into the hidden spiritual dimension of this ancient practice. Trust the process, and allow yourself the space to grow in the quiet wisdom it offers. Balance and moderation. As with all spiritual practices, balance is essential. The line between using wine as a spiritual tool and using it as a crutch is a delicate one. The key is moderation. Wine should be consumed consciously and mindfully, never to excess. Overindulgence can distort the connection to the divine and lead to spiritual confusion. As the ancient wisdom teaches, moderation is the key to maintaining balance and integrity on the path of spiritual awakening. In the pursuit of higher knowledge, the act of drinking wine should never overshadow your inner clarity. If you find that the energy of wine is pulling you away from your true spiritual path, it's time to reassess your relationship with it. Spiritual growth requires the discernment to know when something is elevating your consciousness and when it is leading you astray. These practices offer a profound way to engage with wine as a spiritual tool. With mindful intention, reverence, and the right balance, you can begin to unlock the deeper mysteries hidden within this ancient elixir. Whether you drink wine to awaken your intuition, connect with the divine, or simply gain clarity, each sip becomes an opportunity to transcend the mundane and journey into the heart of the sacred. As we draw the veil back and peer into the hidden mysteries of wine, it becomes clear that this seemingly simple drink holds a power far greater than we might have imagined. From the ancient vineyards of Persia to the sacred wine ceremonies in Greece and Rome, the symbolism of wine has been a bridge between the mundane and the divine, a tool for spiritual awakening and introspection. Through mindful rituals and conscious consumption, we can reconnect with this ancient wisdom and begin to uncover truths about ourselves and the universe that have long been forgotten. Wine is more than a beverage. It is a mirror to the soul. The rituals of intention, reverence, and balance not only heighten our connection to the divine, but also invite us into deeper states of consciousness. Each sip is an opportunity to align with the mysteries of the cosmos, to invite wisdom, clarity, and healing into our lives. But as with all sacred practices, the key is balance. Like the wine itself, grapes nurtured by the earth, transformed by time and intention, our spiritual journey must be approached with patience, discernment, and a willingness to grow. It is in the delicate balance of moderation and reverence that the true power of wine reveals itself. As you move forward, I challenge you to explore this hidden path, to engage with wine as a spiritual ally rather than a mere indulgence. Take time to set your intention, hold your chalice with reverence, and listen to the wisdom that emerges with each sip. Drink deeply, not just of the wine, but of the divine mysteries it holds. Are you ready to unlock the ancient knowledge that flows through the wine? Will you allow yourself to step into the sacred space where spirit and substance merge, where every sip is a step closer to the divine? The choice, as always, is yours. If this resonated with you, consider sharing your experience or exploring deeper rituals to enhance your spiritual practice. What revelations did you receive through your own journey with wine? I'd love to hear your thoughts and continue this exploration together.